Kia's second-generation Cadenza makes a much stronger statement than its predecessor. Detroit, Michigan. I'm sure I drove the previous generation Kia Cadenza, but I cannot for the life of me remember it. I'm sure it was fine, in the same way that a Chevy Impala or Toyota Avalon are forgettably satisfactory. But it hardly stood out. Actually, Kia only sold about 28,000 of them since 2013. Turns out the general public barely noticed it, too. The 2017 Cadenza has a much better shot at success, right off the bat. Every time I walk away from this car, I look back for a second glance. I rave about it to friends and co-workers. I really like it, and find myself more excited about this full-size cruiser than any one of its competitors. This time around, the Kia Cadenza is definitely worth your attention. This is a seriously pretty car. The old Cadenza didn't do much for me. It looked like a 7/8 scale Kia K900, which also didn't do much for me. The new sedan wears clean, taut lines, with lots of sharp angles and dramatic elements. The 19-inch dark finish wheels look great, and I love the lightning bolt signature of the LED turn signals, also the running lamps, up front. I'll go. I can't believe Kia is still using this old, naturally aspirated, 3.3-liter V6. It's not especially powerful, slow to respond, and the 8-speed automatic transmission tends to just upshift into the highest gear possible for better fuel economy. That'd be fine, normally, especially considering this car's relaxed demeanor, but a combined economy rating of 23 miles per gallon is also pretty poor. Look, there isn't a single car in this segment that I'd label fun to drive, and in that regard, the Cadenza joins the population of Snoozeville, USA. There's no feedback through the steering or chassis, even when swapping between Comfort, Sport, Eco, and Smart, Red, Auto, Drive modes, they all feel exactly the same. All Sport does is keep you in one gear lower than the engine wants, and it doesn't feel in any way sporty. My advice, leave this thing in comfort, take it easy, and just enjoy the plush ride and super nice interior. There's hardly a better way to hunt backroad barbecue. Durham, North Carolina. North Carolina may be tagged as a battleground right now, but it's still the South, meaning, at least from an outsider's perspective, it's awful friendly. I spent 3 days in the Raleigh/Durham/Chapel Hill area that's nicknamed the Triangle, getting labeled as honey and baby just about everywhere I stopped to chat. In Michigan, conversely, dude is about as familiar as it gets. Even my wife, as Yankee a Mainer as you'll find, calls me Joe as a loving, not lovey, pet name. It's just darn neighborly down south. The vibe was strangely appropriate for the launch of Audi's redesigned S3 Sport Compact, which has turned into a downright genial space in which to carve up curvy roads. You'd have to be an Audi enthusiast to know for certain that the 2017 formulation of this car is significantly different than the outgoing machine, which is only a couple of years old in the US market. Typical facelift style changes were made to the exterior, meaning a new grille and front fascia, a slightly different shape to the headlights, and revised LED lighting front and rear. The S3 gets a signature wheel, 18 inches in diameter with a because a little more spice makes everything nice. South Bend, Indiana. There are sports cars and there are sporty cars, and it's in that latter group where you'll find Hyundai's new, aptly named Elantra Sport. It's not intended to be a full-on performance offering, instead finding a middle ground between your everyday compact car and, say, something like a Volkswagen GTI or Subaru WRX. Think of this as more of a Nissan Sentra SR turbo-level competitor. Except better. Way better. Hyundai's mission is to create an Elantra with sporting credentials that go beyond a couple of badges and some ground effects. The Sport has a new rear suspension, bigger stabilizer bars, higher spring and damper rates, a new steering ratio, larger brakes, and perhaps most importantly, a new engine. All of that hides behind a new front fascia, side sill extensions, and 18-inch wheels. And because none of this changes the standard Elantra's qualities of being quiet, comfortable, and nicely equipped, what we have here is a car that's plenty good to begin with an extra helping of fun. The Sport uses Hyundai's 1.6-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with 201 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque, healthy gains of 54 HP and 63 lb-ft compared to a standard Elantra. ALFA's long-awaited sport sedan delivers all the thrills and passion the 4C promised. Sonoma, California. Sonoma Raceway couldn't be slicker if a marble truck had shed its load on the circuit. It's been pouring all morning, and there's standing water all over the undulating course's many off-camber corners. But Fabio Francia isn't fazed, hammering the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio around with an ultra-calm demeanor. He's unleashing all 505 horsepower on the straights, standing on the carbon ceramic stoppers until I'm hanging against my seat belt, and dialing in big handfuls of countersteer to cope with entry, exit, and even mid-corner oversteer. Not that I should be surprised Francia is a dab hand with this car, given that he whipped it around the Nürburgring in 7 minutes and 32 seconds earlier this year. That's quicker than several famous Italian and German sports cars, and only 3 seconds off the pace of Chevy's new Camaro ZL1. It's a serious promise from Alfa's new sport sedan. It's fair to say that the arrival of the Giulia Quadrifoglio is the litmus test of whether Alfa Romeo can really make it in America. The mid-engine 4C sports car was a tantalizing amuse-bouche, but now the Giulia sedan, and the forthcoming Stelvio crossover. A 5-door layout and generous cargo space make a good compact car quite a bit better. Ann Arbor, Michigan. American car writers have been bitching about a lack of hatchbacks in our market for years. The shortage of small, functional, and fun-to-drive cars in the States has caused me to lust over European and Japanese metal for decades now. But the truth is that the US has more hatchback options today than it has in quite some time. And I'm not talking about small wagons or crossovers, either, though those are hardly in short supply. Fiat, Ford, Honda, soon, Hyundai, Kia, Mazda, Mini, Nissan, Smart, Toyota, and Volkswagen all rock hatchbacks in their diverse lineups. More brands get added to that list when you factor in hybrids and electric cars with accessible rear load spaces. In all, Chevy's Director of Marketing Steve Maioros tells me, hatchback volume in the US is a yearly 350,000 units. And it's a place that Chevy dearly wants to use to capture some long-term customers, via this newly hatched Cruze 5-door, We had generally positive things to say about the cruise when our managing editor first drove the thing, in sedan form, in Tennessee. I spent the day in Ann Arbor and Detroit, Michigan, sorting out if the added functionality ultimately produces a better overall vehicle.